2 locations in the Bible that are now lost. Number 1. The location of the Garden of Eden. Where exactly is the location of the Garden of Eden? The Bible contains a number of secrets and mysteries. On the other hand, one question that a lot of people ask is, what is the location of the Garden of Eden? In order to find the answer to this question, we will have to conduct some forensic research. First, let us go to the Bible. Eden was the name of a region of the earth when God first created the world. The Hebrew word translated Eden is taken to mean pleasure or delight. In this area, God planted a garden. In this place, God spent time with the first man, and they had a direct relationship. The Garden of Eden is notable for several reasons. First and foremost, it was planned and planted by none other than God Himself. Second, is that it was the first home of mankind. The only thing the Bible tells us concerning the Garden of Eden's location is found in Genesis chapter 2, verses 10 to 14. Now a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided and became 4 rivers. The name of the first is Pishon. It flows around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. The gold of that land is good. The bdellium and the onyx stone are there as well. The name of the second river is Gihon. It flows around the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Tigris. It flows east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. The Bible describes this region as having 4 rivers and an abundance of resources, including gold of a particularly high quality and gemstones. Although the identities of the Pishon and Gihon rivers are unknown with absolute certainty, the identities of the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers are common knowledge. The key area in the map of the Middle East is what geographers call the Fertile Crescent, the band of fertile land which stretches from the River Nile in Egypt in the west, northeast through the land of Israel, and then south and southeast to the plains surrounding the rivers Tigris and Euphrates in what used to be called Mesopotamia, which means the middle of the rivers, Meso, middle, and Potamia, rivers. If the Tigris and Euphrates rivers mentioned in the Bible are the same rivers that are known by those names today, then the Garden of Eden must have been located in the Middle East. However, even a modest flood in a localized area can alter the path that a river takes, and the flood that occurred during Noah's time was more than just a localized flood. We know modern rivers today, such as the Tigris or Euphrates, because Noah and his sons named some rivers in the post-flood world after familiar pre-flood rivers. The deluge completely changed the topography of the earth. Because of this, the original location of the Tigris and Euphrates is uncertain. In the same way that Bethlehem in Pennsylvania was named after the town in Judea, it's possible that the modern rivers that we call the Tigris and the Euphrates are simply named after those that are associated with Eden. For centuries, people have looked, but they have not been able to find the Garden of Eden. There are a number of locations that are rumored to have been the original site of Eden, but nobody knows for sure. What became of the perfect garden in the beginning of time? There is no explicit statement to this effect in the Bible. There is a good chance that the garden was obliterated in its entirety by the flood. So if we cannot locate the former Garden of Eden, the great question we should ask ourselves also is whether we will ever experience another Eden. A new Eden, you may say. Restoring our fellowship with God through faith in Jesus Christ is the prerequisite for entering the eternal garden that God has prepared for us. In the New Jerusalem, there is a river with the water of life, clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. Revelation chapter 22 verses 1 to 3. And he showed me a river of the water of life, clear as crystal, coming from the throne of God and of the Lamb, in the middle of its street. On either side of the river was the tree of life, bearing 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. There will no longer be any curse, and the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in it, and his bondservants will serve him. The Bible begins with the tree of life, which man was not allowed to eat from after the sin of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Our eyes are once again drawn to the tree of life. Seeing the tree of life again points to a restoration of all things. Now at last, almost at the end of the great drama of the Bible, man may return and legitimately enjoy the blessing which he was banished for illegitimately desiring. Preston Hansen. The Garden of Eden is still longed for by a lot of people. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11. He has made everything appropriate in its time. He has also set eternity in their heart, without the possibility that mankind will find out the work which God has done from the beginning even to the end. The Garden of Eden, that place of pleasure and delight, we lost because of our sin, and God in His mercy and grace will restore it to us on Christ's behalf. Number 2. The location of Moses. Regarding the events that transpired in the days leading up to Moses' death, God has made the decision to withhold this information from us. Moses ascended the heights of Mount Nebo, while Israel camped out in the plains of Moab. From there, he had a clear view of the entire Promised Land, all the way to the coast of the Western Sea. Now Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land, Gilead as far as Dan, and all Naphtali in the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah as far as the Western Sea, and the Negev, and the territory in the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees as far as Zoar. Deuteronomy chapter 34 verses 1 to 3. What an honorable title! Moses is distinguished as the servant of Jehovah. At the end of Moses' life, God gave Moses a glimpse of the land he had left Egypt for. Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah. There is a Pisgah where we also must pass and be gathered to our fathers. May we climb to it as willingly as did Moses, the servant of God. The manner of Moses' death is exceedingly remarkable. The circumstances surrounding Moses' passing are pretty extraordinary. Mount Pisgah has a summit elevation of 4,500 feet, nearly a mile. There aren't many 120-year-old men who can climb a mountain almost a mile high and live to tell the tale. Yet here was Moses, nearly a century and a quarter old, climbing to the top of a 4,500-foot high peak and having a great time once there. Moses is not full of self-pity. The extraordinary scene of the man of God standing alone on the summit of the mountain, with a view of Canaan spread out below him. He was not allowed to enter the Promised Land due to the event that occurred in Numbers chapter 20 verses 7 to 12. His death was the culmination of his life. Moses died according to the word of the Lord. Moses died by himself, but in peace. The tale of his death is found in the final 6 lines of Deuteronomy chapter 34. After death comes burial, and so it was in the case of Moses. But verse 6 contains one of the most remarkable statements about the whole remarkable career of Moses. Deuteronomy chapter 34 verse 6. and he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no one knows his burial place to this day. God personally buried Moses, the only person in the Bible. Have you taken note of that? The Lord proceeded to hide the tomb after that. What was it that drove him to act in this manner? Because a shrine could have been built on top of that grave. They would still be making their way up Mount Nebo to this day, constructing shrines, selling popcorn and peanuts, providing a variety of rides, and possibly even sending a tram up there with enormous banners proclaiming Moses' burial place. Therefore, it was a secret. This was of such vital importance to the Lord that it even precipitated a conflict between angels. The book of Jude includes one of the more peculiar accounts of this event that can be found in the Bible. Jude writes, "But even the archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil, Satan, and arguing about the body of Moses, did not dare bring an abusive condemnation against him, but simply said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" Jude verse 9. It would appear that the devil had his own ideas about what he could do with Moses' body, but God responded, "Never. I claim ownership of his body, in the same manner that I do his soul, and I intend for the grave to remain undiscovered for all time." The end of the story. All things have their proper wrap-up, as does the story of Moses. No matter what Satan had in mind, we are certain that it could not have been good. He steals, kills, and destroys. While these strategies do not appear to be subtle, Satan can make even stealing, killing, and destroying appear to be subtle. He has the power to steal God's word from the heart of anyone who hears it by asking, "Has God really said?" Now Michael, according to this account, stands up in defense of Moses, and in the zeal of an upright and bold spirit says to Satan, "The Lord rebuke thee." Others think that Satan wanted to desecrate the body of Moses, but consider that God had another purpose for Moses' body, which Satan wanted to defeat. Moses appears in bodily form with Elijah, whose body was caught up to heaven at the transfiguration. Matthew chapter 17 verses 1 to 3. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, the brother of James, and led them up on a high mountain by themselves. And his appearance changed dramatically in their presence, and his face shone with heavenly glory, clear and bright like the sun. And his clothing became as white as light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with Jesus. And perhaps Moses and Elijah are the two witnesses of Revelation 11. Revelation chapter 11 verse 6. These two witnesses have the power from God to shut up the sky, so that no rain will fall during the days of their prophesying regarding judgment and salvation. And they have power over the waters, seas, rivers, to turn them into blood, and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they wish. It would appear that God had a task that needed to be accomplished with the body of Moses before the time of the general resurrection. Consequently, God made a special provision for himself to be the one to bury Moses' body. And perhaps God preserved the body of Moses in some way. God wanted to protect the body of Moses, so no one knows his grave to this day. Seemingly, they searched for it, as would be expected, out of a desire to memorialize this great leader of the nation.